Hello and welcome to part 2 of Oakburg on City Skylines 2. Today we have lots of opportunity, primarily because our demand bar is through the roof. Also because we've unlocked new services like public transit, which will allow us to grow our city faster. But I've got plans that involve these two land tiles. The first step will be flattening out this peninsula. And while we were doing that, we have unlocked the larger Fox Inn pub and a couple more pubs. And this is going to be where we build our downtown. And to manage all that, we are going to need quite a large road. And off this main avenue, we can take off some road. Now, even though it's a downtown, I did intentionally curve it, just because I don't want it to be cookie cutter and all the same and be boring. But I've still got an idea for something we can do. And that just requires me to give a little space in the middle and make these two separate roads for a little bit of time. With much difficulty, we were able to replicate it downtown. But the fight still isn't over, as we still have to do a lot of cleanup. But now we need advanced road services, and now we can just go through and get rid of these traffic lights. And now we'll just remove all bad turns. And there we go, that is our main road now completed. That is, at least after we remove all of these crosswalks. But now, just because our income is low, I'd like to actually start building in here. Which means laying out a basic network for roads for these homes, providing amenities such as parking in them, and then placing down some signature buildings. And with the houses down, it's time to fix the problems. And that's all the problems solved, but I still think we could make the area look much nicer. But right now, we are really missing a lot of money. But hopefully the people who move in here will replace that. So while we wait on money, I think we could do the free stuff, which is fixing these slopes and adjusting surfaces. And now we can see the people are finally starting to move in. But we still lack the money to build a nice park for the people in this area. But to increase our monthly balance, it's time to continue zoning. But now our low density demand is also disappearing. So instead we should build a block of offices. And also over here, maybe at a gas station. And as we can see, we've also unlocked quite a few buildings. I think a gas station would make sense here, just because the density is high, there are quite a few cars, and really, our other gas station doesn't exist anymore. Meaning, as far as realism, you wouldn't be able to get gas. Also, because of the amount of businesses on this road, we're stuck with a gridlock, meaning no more businesses are going on this main road. But also, we've got to build a post office, which I think it makes sense to put it near these offices. But I am also just going to move this office and allow this one to become larger instead. And now we'll just add a couple of mailboxes throughout the city. And next, we're going to have to figure out where to put this cellular tower. But as it is pretty cheap, I think it makes sense to take out a loan and give the people this service. Also, we will definitely need a mailbox over here. And now that we've got some money, I am going to put a park right here. But I'm just going to get rid of this bench, as it doesn't really make sense there. And then I'll fix some surfaces too. And there we go, I think that's a good place for a park. And over here, I'm going to add this building. And I'll get rid of this alley too. And eventually I will change the color. But I like this building over here, as it will allow the most people to have an outlook on the water. Also, it casts a bit of shade on the park. But now we're seeing a healthcare and deathcare problem, which means the budget for healthcare has to be increased. And now I think we can just add a couple of high-density buildings here. And we'll also add a pocket park to increase park coverage. And I think over here really just needs a roundabout, so let's see if that fixes our problem. Also, it's time to replace this pub with its larger sibling. Also, I'm noticing I do have to adjust the elementary school, as it is for some reason sunken into the ground a bit. But to make sure growth continues, I would like to expand our industrial sector. And now our industry sector is much larger, but there is still a little bit of space where we can continue zoning. Also, over here in this complex, there doesn't seem to be enough parking. So what we'll do is unlock the parking progression, and then we'll just add some right here. Also, this whole area is missing power, which means we've got to increase our electricity budget. Also, I would prefer if all of these buildings matched. And last time when I built these bike paths and walking paths too, I messed up, as somehow they built as bridges, which shows the bad parts of anarchy. But that's a-okay, as I can simply just rebuild them. And presumably all of these homes have filled up mostly, which has given us our medium density demand back. Also, I'm noticing a problem. Because this building is on this road, once we expand this road, you're not going to be able to get over here coming from this direction because you won't be able to make a U-turn, which means we should add something like this so you actually can. And there we go. That is our problem solved. So I'm going to make this building white just because I think it would look a little better. Of course, though, it is still not perfect as it still kind of sticks out. Now though, I would like to build over here. I think the first building to place is going to be a gas station, as again, there really wouldn't be a gas station for quite a long time in this area. And I think a pub and a restaurant in this area would be a staple. And I think it's time to just put a couple of regular businesses here too. And this will now essentially function as a shopping district, except there is nowhere near enough parking for that. So a couple of parking lots will go a long way. And there we go. I think this is the area completed. All we have to do now is untick the parking fee. And honestly, this might become the main shopping area for all of our city. And eventually we might actually have to get rid of these businesses as they are what is causing the traffic jam. Over here though, I'm going to make a change. And I'm actually just gonna take a road through here. For some reason though, this building is complaining about car access, so I will see if I move it. Maybe it'll fix the problem. Luckily, it did. And even after all of these adjustments, the intersection still looks wacky. Luckily though, I don't think too many of our businesses got dezoned. And as we can see, people are already starting to use this plaza a lot, which is great news as it means it was a great investment. Over here though, I would like to sort of fix the terrain, and while we're at it, accidentally start a new project. And now we have a little spiraling road that will lead us down to ocean level. And after a little bit of touching up, I think it looks much better. And now, all along here, we're going to put some medium density housing. Well, that's a pretty major traffic jam, but it keeps going, which means maybe this wasn't the best idea we've had so far, but maybe it will clear out and it will probably be able to be fixed in the future. But you'll have to stick around for future videos to see how. Now for this waterfront area, I am going to have to unlock park maintenance, but I would like to unlock large parks. The first park I would like to place is right here, right on the waterfront, which gives you a perfect view of the water. And of course, you've got these little benches here where you can sit and watch. I also think a lighthouse over here would be pretty cool. And to continue on the theme of setting this area up for the future, we'll add a mailbox. And now we'll just add a couple of buildings along the waterfront. And now we can add a couple of buildings here too. And in the future, once we have more demand, we can add more over here too. But for now, we need to diversify places to shop. To help with that, we are going to finally start developing over here. Also, I'm not sure where my traffic light went over here, so I'm gonna add it back, and I did not realize that many people were walking this far, and to me that is pretty crazy. But now my parking lot is missing pedestrian access, which means we'll get rid of it, and then replace it with a smaller, more fitting sized parking lot. But that means we also have to fix how it looks. Also, hopefully this other way to get to the shopping area will help, but of course we do have to fix the slope again. I also changed the grid to be much wider instead, and I think it will look much better, and also allow us to do much more. Additionally, our medium density homes have finally zoned in, and I think once it all levels up, it'll all look super great. Now I think I have a solution for the traffic once more, and that would be getting rid of pedestrians. Now of course that's not literally my goal, but for what I'm going to need to do, I will need to unlock large roads. And what I really need is this, and I think with a little bit of effort we can place it about right here, and place another one right there. That will also give us milestone 6 of Boomtown, which gives us money, development points, and land tiles too. And now what we can do is simply get rid of these crosswalks here and make people use these overpasses. Also, I think a roundabout might be helpful, but we will have to get rid of these parking lots in order to do it. I also have to get rid of this temporarily because it is in the way. And we might as well just redo all of the parking lots while we're at it. And this might have actually been the solution to our traffic problem, especially the roundabout. So hopefully it will clear up soon. And as we can see, the people who were previously stuck in traffic are finally being able to move into their new homes. And finally the traffic over here has cleaned up, which makes me very, very happy with the area. And eventually, once we unlock it, we might even be able to make some of these buildings high density even. What I'd like to do now though with the money we have is repay our loan, and then start deciding what will be going in all of these tiles. I think we can mostly knock off commercial, and I think a couple of offices would be helpful for the area, except there's no office demand. Definitely no industrial will be put here, which leaves us with residential. I would like to refrain from using low density over here, except for maybe a couple of buildings like this one, which are small and compact. But otherwise I'm looking at all medium density or high density. Now I'd like to leave these areas mostly clear, so I want this to be mostly offices and maybe a couple of medium density buildings. Down here I'd like high density including low rent housing, and up here I'd like more strictly medium density. And then in this area, once we build the roads, we'll add some row housing to transition. So I think that's what we should get done right now. And that is a lot of road laid down, which means it is time to get zoning. But of course that is only after a couple of fixes first. Genuinely, why would I ever want to do this? Like, what is anarchy even thinking about? That's never something anyone would want to do. I'm also going to use a development point on roundabouts so that I can unlock all of the cul-de-sacs and instead put a larger, I don't remember what it's called, I think it's something I don't know. Regardless, it will allow us to put a couple of more homes around it. And also we have office demand now, but we've also got quite the traffic issue happening. Just because I would like to keep our office demand, I am going to start stoning it in now. And because it's an office area, I would like it to look very nice. So that's why I'll make some tree-lined streets. And now it's time to add some pass-throughs, along with a bike lane and path that runs through the whole length of it. And I think this is a pretty good start. Now I'll just make sure all the paths are running the same direction, and finally we can start zoning. And now if we ever get any more office demand, we will have plenty of space to build it. Of course though, a couple of parks would make the area much nicer. And we'll even add a couple of pass-through parks. And with the parks added, this is our office center completed. And yet we've still got a major traffic jam going on, which is because these cars are waiting to go over here, but these cars couldn't go because it was essentially, whatever, it was just a gridlock. It couldn't fix itself. Regardless, now that the car is cleared, hopefully it should be solved. And hopefully a traffic light will also help fix the problem. I'm not sure how much it helped, just because of how big the issue is, but I would still like to have a stab at completely fixing our problem. And we'll also add our crosswalks back so that people can cross with a light protecting them. And if this isn't the problem solved, it's at least a better looking one. But there is also plenty of traffic to be had here for some reason, as people are using what I intended to be a parking lot as a road. But it looks like we don't really have a choice on that. So if we're in this area anyways, we might as well make it look nicer. And our traffic problem remains. And it is what it is, but we might as well add a little connectivity anyways, but this is looking like a problem, so I'm gonna try this again, but without anarchy on this time. And there we go. Also, we've had a couple more offices zone in, which I love to see. Also, I'm seeing over here a drawback for low density is a high unemployment rate, but at the same time it also says free workplaces, so I really don't understand what that means. Regardless, we have plenty of demand, so I think it only makes sense to start building over here. Also, I think we can add one high density, low rent building, but I did also mess up over here, so I am going to fix it now. And there we go. That is pretty much all of our residential demand gone, except for low density. But I think I'd like to save the rest of the waterfront for signature buildings. And we'll also just do a little bit of cleanup. And the traffic just seems to keep persisting on and on. And I think it is mostly because people just can't get out. So I do want to see if it's possible to make one of these roads a two-way so that it's easier for people to leave. And right now, not even anarchy is able to save me. I can't even place this road. I don't know what's going on, man. Let's see if that will work this time, and it will. And let's do this, and it is refusing to work, which means we've got to get rid of all of these roads, and then we've got to replace them. Okay, we've halfway solved the problem. And I think that should be the problem fully solved, but now what we have to do is still a difficult thing to do, which is creating super nodes. But it seems it's actually went somewhat well. And with the replacement of our traffic light, I hope this functions and we no longer see as many problems. But we will definitely add our parking lots back, and of course fix their surfaces because we want this place to look somewhat nice. And hopefully this is problem solved, and it definitely looks better as far as traffic, but still not perfect. But only time will tell if our solution worked. Luckily for us though, this area is not having the same traffic problems as the commercial district. But this tells me putting this much commercial in an area like this is a terrible idea. Also, I think it makes sense to do a little bit of cleanup on the terrain here too. And now we have reached our limit on how much low density we are putting in this area. And we've almost reached our low density demand anyway, so it should work out just fine. But once again over here, it is zoning time. And with this area added, we've also reached our medium density capacity. Also, because of how much row housing we've added and how much parking row housing takes, I'm going to change this road to have more parking. Also, we're no longer making enough electricity, which means our electricity budget must be increased. Also, on the waterfront, we need more parking, but we have to do it smart because we don't want the area to look bad, so I am just going to add some parking behind the buildings. This road is pretty steep, but it's not like it's the only road you can use to get up. It's just an option if you want to. Also, I'm gonna move the lighthouse to over here. And I know it's on another park, but I kind of feel like that would make sense anyways. And also before it was hidden behind a building, so you couldn't see it anyways. Plus, because we did that, we can now actually add more parking. And now this area has plenty of parking for its numerous residents. And once more, with a little more cleanup, the area will look very nice. And the last thing we will do for over here is add a small little beach. And now we have a nice beach with a little path going through it. And now we can just add a couple of seats, hammocks too, some umbrellas, and even a couple of grills. And then a couple of tables where you can enjoy a dinner every once in a while. Also, we'll add a nice large fountain, and then of course we'll add a couple of food carts where you can grab a meal. And then we'll add an abundant amount of trash cans because we want the beach to stay clean. And I think that's a pretty nice beach. And this sidewalk might as well just be stairs. Also, traffic has definitely cleared up a bit, but not quite enough. Regardless, a couple of trees will pull this whole area together. And something I like to do rarely is add one factory in an area like this. And my reasoning for it is because one factory on its own isn't gonna do much more than add a little pollution, which is probably nothing more than the amount these cars here are adding. And as we can see, they are adding quite a fair amount because there are a lot of cars pretty much just loitering in this area. Also, I am terribly confused how, but this business we've placed is somehow not getting enough customers, which just absolutely blows me away. Because truly, you have traffic jam after traffic jam for people trying to get to an area like this. And I promise I mean it when I say this is the last thing we'll do. And that is going to be adding mailboxes every once in a while. And with that done, we have a very beautiful city with a brand new addition, which I think ties the whole area together. And once we put some buildings here, I think the downtown will look amazing. Anyways, that's the end of this video. I really appreciate you watching, and if you have any questions or suggestions, please let me know in the comments. In the meantime, have yourself a great day.